So yeah, chapter 98, pretty solid stuff. Of course, I feel like that's always the case. A lot of these recent chapters have been really hitting the nail on the hammer very well, and this chapter is, of course, no exception. It was a bit on the short side, but I think that works in its favor. It's just a quick, short burst of action, fun, all that stuff. It's just very overall solid chapter. That's no surprise here. We leave off within the previous chapter where the head doctor Mamazuku are about to pursue Josuke. We get to see some pretty trippy optical illusions that the head doctor does. Like he goes through the walls and all that stuff. Like his image kind of gets flattened. It's all pretty cool, especially when it's all being drawn out on paper. Very interesting stuff. Um, of course, Mamazuku gets there first. He's like, "What the hell are you doing, Josuke?" The head doctor's on his way, but of course, as the reader, we know this was his intention the whole time to let the head doctor pursue Josuke. Vice versa, basically. And we get a few good reveals. Not necessarily surprising reveals, but very interesting. I like to see this stuff being shown off. The head doctor isn't really a person, it's the stand, and now we have an explanation for that other weird stand within, like, I believe, late chapter 80 something and early chapter 90, like that one weird stand that appeared in the hospital very early on. That is basically the head doctor stand, but it could just metamorphosize into an old man, which is kind of strange. I don't get the point of that, but and then there's a few problems I want to address about that as well, but nevertheless, the head doctor is the stand. Not too surprising. I think I speculated this in my previous videos, and I think this is something that was very commonly theorized within the community. So again, not too much of a surprise, but still very interesting. And of course, with this being the case, the stand master has to be Toru because, I mean, who else is it going to be? And he's already been revealed to be an antagonist within this part. Not main antagonist so far, but at least a minor antagonist. So Toru is the stand master. Very interesting stuff, and that does explain how he was able to know everything else that was going on within the hospital. So nice, everything is laid out. The head doctor enters the room, but of course, Josuke's been pretty much plotting his stuff. So why do I call him the head doctor? It's freaking Toru though. So Toru's stand enters the room, and he knows it's obviously a little bit suspicious. So he basically, like, puts in, like, this, it was a little bit confusing at first when I read it, but he has these bugs, and then he puts them on the ground, and then I think they eat wood. Honestly, I probably should reread it, but then it was, like, then this weird, they look like popsicle sticks tied up into, like, this weird machine. Not really a machine, but anyway, wood-eating bugs all over the ground. Presumably, neither Mamazuku or Josuke could step on the ground. I mean, Josuke's just been chilling on this chair for the past, 5 to 6 chapters, so. And then in the meanwhile, we get some really interesting stuff. We get some interesting, what do I want to call it? Exposition? Some interesting stuff about Joshu. He's, like, I'm calling it right now. It's getting very hyped with Joshu, like, I'm calling it right now, and I think other people have as well right now. I think there's going to be a fight between Toru and Joshu, because now that Jobin is down for the count, now that Narusuke is down for the count as well, Joshu's really the only man in the house, per se, that really has, I want to say, a fighting chance against any stand users, that being Toru in this case. I mean, it just seems like that's going to play out, and he decided to help out Yasuo, which I suppose isn't obviously too surprising. It's not like Jobin's stopping him now, since he's, like, basically knocked out, or dead, who knows. Jobin's not stopping Joshu from, helping out Yasuo, so it's not too surprising. I think I may have said this a while ago, but if this is the case and he's actually genuinely wants to help her out, he may use his stand to heal her, to reattach her arm, because it's been, severed. So that'd be a very interesting way for his stand to play out. It actually could work very well as a healing stand. I never even thought about that, but still, Yeah, this just may be the redemption arc for him. Like I said, we've been getting hints of this. Definitely been getting hints of this, and it's amazing because I think he's probably one of the most. Well, I guess now people are hyping, very hyped up for him. They're rooting for him now. But earlier on, I and many others definitely did not like him as a character. But the fact that we're all rooting for him now is pretty nice. It's a good way for the tables to turn, and like I said, like a Toru versus Joshu fight, I'd be so down. This is the kind of fight like I've been waiting for. Like I feel like we need like a really solid ass 1v1 epic stand fight, and we haven't really seen too much of Joshu's stand. And this is kind of a common problem throughout the Jojolion. I feel like we see a lot of cool stands. They get previewed for a little bit in the beginning of their appearance, and then we don't really see them at all or much later. So again, I would really like to see Joshu stand versus Toru. I think that'd be a really fun fight. And think about this: if it works on pursuing, I think Josh would be that kind of person to just. I mean, he has the plant. He has the new Rakaka as well. So, I mean, knowing him, he would probably just make a run for it, which would pretty much negate Toru's stand, which would be terrific. I would love to see a fight where Joshu is just running away and leaving a trail of madness for Toru to trip up on and stuff like that. Because, yeah, it does play within Joshu's personality to run away from a stand battle. I don't know. It'd just be really cool. And that'd be the perfect counter to Toru's stand. Nevertheless, aside from that, I actually want to bring up a really cool quote that I remember from the chapter. It's the right path, even if walked on by a saint who makes no mistakes. It is unavoidable that bad things sometimes occur. That is calamity. I don't know, I really like that quote, and I feel like that quote's going to somehow make a reference or not an appearance, but is somehow going to be a main theme or main factor within later in this part or at the end of this part. I don't know, I really like that. I don't know, I just like that quote. It's very ominous, but at the same time, it's very true. And the terminology, even if walked on by a saint, the term saint kind of reminds me of Steel Ball Run, which is sort of interesting. I highly doubt that's any connection within Steel Ball Run, but still very interesting stuff. Just wanted to point out their quote. And then at the end of the chapter, the last few panels per se, we get some interesting conversation. Toru's stand pretty much boasts that he already has the new Rakakaka fruit. And then Josuke makes a very good point in return, saying that if that's the case, then what's the point of, messing with them? Shouldn't that just be enough? And then, of course, yeah, the cat's kind of out of the bag that Toru doesn't have the new Rakakaka yet. And then he just dips out and the chapter ends there. So, yeah, like I said, interesting way to end it. Very, not really crazy climactic, but it leaves a lot up to the reader what's going to happen next. I mean, presumably they still got to deal with those bugs that are running around on the hospital floor. And I wonder if Josuke will get a hint that Toru is at the Hishigata household. And then, of course, we still have all the stuff going on with Joshu and Yasuo at the household as well. So, again, it all ends not necessarily in a crazy climactic way, but it ends in a open-ended manner, I suppose. So, yeah, any theories, any speculation, closing thoughts, all that stuff in this chapter? Yeah, there was one thing that I wanted to mention earlier about the head doctor's stand, or I guess in this case, Toru's stand. There's a little bit of a plot hole here, and I heard this from other people online, and it's a really good point to be made. It was how did the head doctor stand make that huge press conference speech a few chapters ago? How is that possible? Stands can't be seen by non-stand users. So how does Toru stand, how does the head doctor stand, announce stuff on a stage in front of hundreds of people? How does that work? it just seems like a really weird plot hole that I'm not too sure that's going to be elaborated. Aside from that, I think it's going to be interesting to see the Joshu versus Toru fight, like I mentioned beforehand, and in addition to that, where Momozuku and Josuke go after the hospital. Why and how are they going to return to the Hishigata household, or will they return back to the house? It's going to be interesting how that all plays out and how the chapters ahead are going to connect properly. But overall, I feel like I don't have too many thoughts about this month's chapter. Like I said, it was pretty short. It was a nice short burst of action, reveals and stuff like that. But I think in the following chapters, I feel like there's going to be a lot more to say and talk about. This is just the pre-build-up to something a lot bigger. So I feel like I've said everything I wanted to say. I mean, if I'm forgetting anything, like, just tell me in the comments below, all that stuff, because I probably am and probably have forgotten a lot of things to mention. But yeah, any theories, speculation, thoughts overall on the chapter or Jojolion entirely, please put your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear them. And yeah, thank you so much for watching and have an awesome day. Peace.